Good morning and welcome to Tanya. Today we're going to be learning a very powerful reframing, not only of our identity as Jews, but of our role in the entire world. What it means to be the chosen people is about to be reinterpreted in the most magnificent, majestic, and meaningful manner, in a way that will inspire you to find purpose in each and every decision that you make, in every word, in every thought, and in every action that you do. Very, very exciting idea that we're about to learn. This is Tanya chapter 37 we're learning right now. We're actually in the middle of chapter 37. If you haven't learned any Tanya before, don't worry about it. We are learning each and every class as independent of any other. So here goes, as we learn this brilliant idea as taught by the Alter Rebbe, whose birthday was yesterday. Yesterday was the 18th day of Elul, and Chai of Elul, the Hebrew month of Elul, the last month of the year. And it's not only the birthday of the Alter Rebbe, but it's also the author of the Tanya. It also is the birthday of his mentor's mentor, the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidus in general. And since it is, so the Baal Shem Tov was born in 1798. It was on his 26th birthday that Achia Hashiloni revealed himself to him. Achia Hashiloni is a Jew who came out of Egypt with Moses, and he was the mentor and teacher of Elijah the prophet. Achia Hashiloni died around the time of King David. So he lived an extraordinarily long life, about 600 years. But apparently he came back to teach the Baal Shem Tov the secrets of Kabbalah when the Baal Shem Tov was 26 years old in the year 1724. And for 10 years, he taught the Baal Shem Tov the secrets of Kabbalah until the Baal Shem Tov turned 36. And in the year 1734 was when the Baal Shem Tov revealed himself to the world as opening the new gateways to Hasidic philosophy. Now, when the Baal Shem Tov was 57 years old, I believe it was, he was born in 1698, right? So in 1754, I think it was, the Alter Rebbe was born. In fact, I'll tell you right now what year exactly it was that the Alter Rebbe was born. 1745. It was 1745 that the Alter Rebbe was born, and he became the founder of the movement of Chabad. He wrote the Tanya, and if you've learned Tanya with me by now, you should know that Tanya is the most dense, compact, powerful text. It is extraordinarily powerful. And what we're about to learn today is an idea that potentially can change the way you relate to the universe, and more importantly, potentially can change the way you relate to yourself. It's interesting, that I was reading this week the introductory letter that the Rebbe wrote to the first English translation of the Tanya. This translation of the Tanya, you're looking at it right here, was published in 1962, when it was translated by Rabbi Nissen Mendel for the very first time. And it was fascinating to me to see that the idea that the Rebbe wrote as he's introducing the Tanya to American Jewry for the very first time, this godly idea, this godly book of Tanya being introduced to American Jews in English for the very first time. What idea did the Rebbe choose to express, to introduce in his introductory letter to the Tanya? It was Tanya chapter 37. What we are learning today, really very, very extraordinary, very powerful idea that really can change your perspective on yourself, on God, and on your role in the universe, bringing meaning and purpose to every single thought, speech, and action that you make. And that's what we're going to be discussing in just a few short moments. I'd like to quickly welcome Rob Berger and Marty Knopf, Ed Hockman, Terry Zweig, Corey, and on YouTube, Johnny 40. I'm looking forward to the explanation of what Eliyahu will do. I'm unsure about it. That Johnny is taking place. That class will take place on Thursday morning at 8:30. God willing, this week our Mashiach class will take place this Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. It would be a pleasure and an honor to have you join us. And to Bob Wertheimer, who is celebrating his 75th birthday. His birthday celebration is taking place, was this past Sunday. And I'd like to talk to you, Bob, about exactly how you wanted to celebrate it. You mentioned, I'm not sure if we finished that conversation, but you mentioned that you wanted to do something, so we'll talk. Bob Wertheimer, again, big mazel tov to you on 3/4 of a century. Keep up the great work. Okay, so let's go. Here goes the idea of what we're about to learn in today's Tanya. You know how the President of the United States of America walks around with a football? What is this football? It's a box, it's a briefcase, which carries within inside of it, apparently, the nuclear codes, which can potentially destroy the universe. Well, large chunks of it, at least, of the world, at any given moment. If war breaks out, the idea is that if war breaks out, if the president hears, I don't know, something dramatic, that some enemy country is attacking, within moments, he has the nuclear codes at his fingertips, quite literally, to be able to declare war or respond or do whatever he needs to do with the nuclear warheads that America has all over the world. I don't know enough about it, but apparently it sounds pretty awesome to have this kind of power for one individual, to have this kind of power. Now, we all sort of dream about what it would be like to have that kind of power. Tanya chapter 37 tells us that each and every single one of us, every single Jew, has a football, has a nuclear football, which can dramatically impact the universe at any given moment in time based upon your choices. Now, the one major difference between the football of the President of the United States and the football that you and I carry within us is that the President of the United States has a football with nuclear codes that can destroy the world. Our football is not weapons of mass destruction, but weapons of mass construction. Weapons of mass construction that can fix and repair the world. That's the idea of the nuclear football, the positive nuclear football, which we each have at our fingertips. You see, the way the Alter Rebbe explains this idea in Tanya chapter 37 is in the most profound and meaningful way by saying the following. Remember the first word of the Torah. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That first word, Bereshit, in the beginning, is actually two words. Bereshit not only means in the beginning, but also it can mean bet reshit, two in the beginning. There were two things in the very beginning. There were two reasons in the very beginning, two reasons for which all of this world was created. And what are those two reasons that the Medrash explains to us? The two reasons for which the world was created were, number one, for the Torah, and number two, for Israel, for the Jewish people. The Jewish people fulfilling the Torah, that is the purpose of creation. Now, obviously that ties in with being the chosen people, but we're going to give that a whole new direction, a whole new spin right now. What Tanya chapter 37 tells us is the following, is that to be a Jew is not only a privilege, it's actually a tremendous responsibility. It means that each and every Jewish soul has been given a portion of this world that only you, only he, only she can bring to perfection to fulfill its purpose. So think of the world, of the globe of the world, divided into 600,000 parts. Let's imagine that there are 600,000 souls, as the Torah tells us. 600,000 Jews came out of Egypt, right? So let's divide the world into 600,000 pieces of real estate. Now, what happens with that is, you've just divided the world into 600,000 pieces of real estate. Each and every individual Jewish soul would be responsible for a unique piece of this world. No one else is able to bring that piece of the world to its purpose, to its fulfillment, to make it a home for God. We've learned earlier in Tanya that the purpose of all of creation is for us, Jewish people, to make for God a home in this world. How do we do that? Through doing mitzvahs. Through utilizing the physical objects of this world, which formerly were not exposed to godliness. And when we use them for the purpose of a mitzvah, we've now revealed godly will, the will of God inside of that object. We've now connected that object with the will of God, the explicit and unfiltered desire of God Almighty. That object now has been incorporated within holiness, within godliness. It's now become holy. So when we, each and every Jewish individual who is alive, has a piece of real estate on this earth, which is uniquely connected to them, it is your fulfillment of mitzvahs, or lack thereof, which sanctify that piece of real estate. That will either illuminate or darken that piece of earth. That will either cause godliness to be revealed or godliness to be concealed upon that earth, depending upon your choices. You will either cause that earth to soar or to plummet, much like a nuclear football, where the president can be in Washington, D.C. and unleash the nuclear warheads that are in, I don't know, Mount Rushmore, Idaho, I have no idea where they are, Nebraska maybe, or maybe some nuclear submarine that is in the Persian Gulf or in the Black Sea, who knows. So too, when each and every one of us, you might be in Palm Beach Gardens right now, you might be in New York City, in an apartment on Park Avenue, and when you are studying Torah right now at this very moment, like the president who's impacting real estate in other places of the world, so too, by you doing this mitzvah right now, you too are unleashing weapons of mass construction in the world, in your piece of real estate, wherever it is that in the world. And you're thus bringing your piece of real estate to perfection. We can explain how this works in a few short moments. So first of all, I'd like to know if I'm still on Facebook, because it says, sorry, we're having trouble playing this video. So if you are with me on YouTube, on YouTube, I see we're still on. But on Facebook, if you could please comment in the comment section, tell me if you can still hear me. I hope that you can still hear me. I sometimes lose my video feed, but it doesn't mean that the broadcast is off. So if you could please just comment in the Facebook section, the Facebook comments, to let me know that I'm still broadcasting on Facebook. Thank you, Hannah. I appreciate it. Again, I've lost my video feed, but it doesn't matter. I can't see you, but you can see me, so that's good. I'm glad you can still hear me. So to answer your questions, Marty, only 600,000 souls. What about the rest of the millions of Jews? So I only use 600,000 as a defined number. It's actually a number brought out in the Torah. It's brought in Tanya chapter 37 as well. But bear in mind that there are 600,000 root souls of the Jewish people. When the Torah says that 600,000 Jews came out of Egypt, it means that there are 600,000 root souls. Each one of them is a piece of God. However, just like a fire can light a million different candles and without losing anything from the original fire, so to each one of those 600,000 souls might break apart into 1 million sparks or 10 million sparks or 600,000 sparks, and that would collectively become the body of the nation of Israel, of the souls of all of the Jewish people, not only those that are alive today, but all of those Jewish souls that have ever lived since the Jews came out of Egypt, since the beginning, the birth of our nation, since Mount Sinai. So however way you want to slice it, we're not going to get into the math. Let's assume, I don't know, if there's 20 million Jews alive today, let's assume that there was 4 billion Jews that ever lived in the history of the world, right? Let's take an arbitrary number, maybe 7 billion Jews that ever lived in the history of the world, and we're going to divide the real estate of planet Earth into 7 billion parts. And now each one of us has a predetermined, pre-assigned piece of real estate on this earth that only you are able to sanctify. And we're going to talk about now how you're going to sanctify it. But the idea is, chelko ba'olam, your place on this earth is a vital component of our understanding of our role in this universe When we realize that not only am I myself and my body, but I also represent a piece of real estate upon this earth that cannot be redeemed without me. God needs me. The universe needs me. Humanity needs me. They need my decisions, my proper decisions, as we're about to discuss, in order to be able to sanctify, sublimate, and illuminate that piece of real estate, to bring it to its purpose, to fulfill within that piece of real estate, within those physical objects, a home for God upon this earth, the purpose for which all of us were placed upon this earth. And this is the meaning of the chosen people. It doesn't just mean that we can walk around strutting around our feathers like a peacock, saying, well, we're more chosen than you, we're more important than anybody else. That's not what it means. To be chosen is to be chosen. It's like being married. You know, when somebody you're married, it means that somebody chose to marry you. That's a wonderful thing, but it comes with tremendous responsibility. Instead of walking around with your nose up in the air saying, I was chosen, you should focus more about your responsibilities to your marriage, to your children, to your spouse, to your new role, your new relationship, right? It would be ridiculous for a person to walk around just beating themselves on the chest about being chosen and ignoring the responsibilities for which they were chosen to fulfill. To be the chosen people means that we have an extraordinary responsibility. We have been entrusted. It means that we have been empowered with the ability to bring this universe to its purpose, to fulfill the purpose of creation, that God relies on us, that God needs us, that God cannot bring Mashiach, the purpose of this universe, without you and I. That's what it means to be chosen, and that's what the first word of creation means. Bereshit, in the beginning, two things were in the beginning. The world was created for Torah, and the world was created for Israel, for the people of Israel. If not for the people of Israel, and if not for the Torah, there'd be no purpose in creation. By the way, that's the reason that we celebrate Rosh Hashanah not on the first day of creation, which is in 6 days' time, the 25th day of Elul. We celebrate Rosh Hashanah, the birthday of the world, on the first day of Tishrei, which is the 6th day of creation, because that day is the day that man was created, that Adam and Eve were created. Before Adam and Eve were created, the world served absolutely no purpose. It was only after Adam and Eve were created. It was only after Adam and Eve were created that the world served any purpose. And therefore, we commemorate the birthday of the world on the birthday of Adam and Eve on Rosh Hashanah. I'd like to welcome Miriam Lindner, Liana A.B., and Hockman, Harvey Barnett, Corey. Great to see everybody here with us. We are on youtube.com/Jewish Gardens, as well as facebook.com/Jewish Gardens. Please like the video, share the video, subscribe to us on youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. Just click on the red subscribe button, follow us on Facebook so that we can spread the word. Like the video, please, so we can spread the video, share the video on your page, please, so we can share this power, this empowering wisdom of Tanya with all of the world, with all of your friends. That's our purpose. You never know. Your piece of real estate might just be on Facebook. You know, 1,000 years ago or 100 years ago or maybe 15 years ago, all the pieces of real estate might have been physical pieces of real estate. But maybe our role in this generation is to conquer social media, to conquer the most precious piece of real estate upon the planet, which is our consciousness, the consciousness of humanity. And that happens through social media. So if you spread this video, if you share this video, you might, maybe, be fulfilling your piece of real estate on this earth, which is chelko ba'olam, your portion in this world, which might just be in social media. So again, subscribe to us on youtube.com/Jewish Gardens, and the red subscribe button, and on Facebook, facebook.com/Jewish Gardens. Like the video, share the video. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So let's continue with this idea. So now we've understood a little bit that the Jew is the fulcrum of creation. We are the place where heaven and earth meet. It is our choices and actions that allow the world to reach its purpose, which is to become a home for God. How does that happen? So Tanya chapter 37 tells us the following. When we choose to do a mitzvah, what we're doing is impacting a dramatic effect upon the universe. What we're doing is, first of all, the physical object with which we are doing the mitzvah, whether it's the matzah of the flower of the matzah, the palm branch of the lulav, whether it's the wood of the sukkah, whether it's the wool of your talis or your tzitzis, the parchment of your mezuzah, or even when you daven and when you learn. What you're doing is, it's impossible for you to daven and learn if not that you're using your physical body, your mouth, your teeth, your tongue. You know, as Jews, we shuckle. You've noticed that we Jews, we sway, we go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Why do we do this? Why do we move when we daven? The reason that we do this is because we want to sanctify not only our brain when we learn Torah, not only our heart, the emotion of our heart when we pray, when we daven, but even the physical bones of my body. You see, when I sway in davening, what I'm doing is, or in learning, I'm serving God with all my bones. As King David says, all my bones call out to you, speak out to you, O God. My bones, my entire body serves you. What happens when I learn with my entire body, what I'm doing is that I'm sanctifying the physical body with which I learn. By being able to move, by swaying back and forth, I'm aiding in my concentration and my meditation. And what that does is, by going in a moving motion. I don't know if you're familiar with EMDR. EMDR is a study of psychotherapy that has realized that just the most relaxing state of a human being is in the deepest form of sleep. And when you sleep, you go through a state called REM. REM, R-E-M, is an acronym for rapid eye movement. When we sleep, our eyes are moving in our deepest sleep. Our eyes are moving like this, from side to side. That's how they're moving when we're sleeping. And that sideward swaying motion lulls us into a state of calm and serenity. And that's why in EMDR, I forget what it stands for, but it's a therapeutic method where they use either visual or audio impulses. The therapist will literally put his fingers in front of the patient like this, or some impulse on the fingers or something. And what happens is that they go back and forth, they toggle from left to right and left to right and left to right, and that puts the patient in a state of calmness and serenity to be able to be receptive to the therapy of the counselor. It's almost hypnosis. When I daven, I noticed that I shuckle actually sideways. When I realized this, I had an inspiration as I realized that I daven, I sway side to side, which really puts me in a state of calm and serenity to be able to meditate upon my prayers. So what I'm actually doing there is that I'm aiding my concentration. I know that it might sound distracting to be in motion, but it actually is very much aiding my meditation to be able to daven whilst swaying. And what I'm doing is that I'm sanctifying the physical object with which I'm doing the mitzvah, not only the tefillin, but my physical body as well. So when we do a mitzvah, we're sanctifying the physical object which is being used for the mitzvah. We're sanctifying our physical body, which is allowing the mitzvah to happen. You couldn't do a mitzvah without the assistance of your physical body. And specifically, you're sanctifying your natural soul. Remember, we have two souls, a godly soul and a natural or an animal soul, a nefesh habahamit. And that natural soul is what gives life to the physical body. That natural soul is what's being sublimated each and every time we do a mitzvah. Remember, we learned in a previous chapter of Tanya, maybe 36 or 35, we asked if our goal in this earth is to combat our natural soul, then why is the godly soul enclosed inside of the natural soul? Shouldn't we have one opponent against the other, the godly soul fighting against the natural soul? How does it make any sense that the one opponent is on the shoulders of the other, that the godly soul is enclosed inside of the natural soul? And we explained that now, in this chapter and the previous chapter, that the goal is not to vanquish the natural soul, the goal is to sublimate it. Because by forcing the natural soul and the godly soul to be on the same bicycle together, where the godly soul goes, the natural soul is forced to be schlepped as well. And what happens now is that the natural soul becomes infused with holiness, permeated with holiness, involuntarily by participating in the mitzvah. That natural soul within each and every one of us, friends, is your nuclear football. The natural soul of a Jew, according to Tanya chapter 37, is your weapons of mass construction. When you sanctify your natural soul through doing a mitzvah with it, you are automatically sanctifying your piece of real estate upon this earth. Your mission for which you were born. That can only happen when you sanctify your natural soul. So you don't necessarily have to be in that piece of real estate. But by sanctifying your natural soul, just like the President of the United States and the Washington, D.C. can impact the world in Iran or in Venezuela or in North Korea, so too, by you pushing the buttons of your nuclear football, your weapons of mass construction, you're bringing holiness and goodness and infusion of spirituality and godliness into your piece of real estate. That's why you have to do a mitzvah. And that's the purpose of a Jew upon this earth. Now, what's really interesting, the Alter Rebbe adds, that not only am I sanctifying the physical object with which I did the mitzvah, and not only am I sanctifying my body and my natural soul, which aided in the mitzvah, but even the food and the drink that I ate for breakfast this morning, that's given me the strength right now to study with you, the food and the drink that sustains me is also being elevated. Is also being elevated from its state of neutrality, spiritual indifference, what we call klipas noga. Klipas noga, we spoke about that last week in the class. We're infusing what was formerly in a state of spiritual apathy into a state of spiritual sensitivity, of godly awareness, and incorporated within godliness. The food and the drink, the natural soul, the body, the physical object, and my portion in this world are all being sanctified, being sublimated, being made holy, being infused with godly awareness and godly consciousness, becoming godly when I do a mitzvah. Now, how does this work? First of all, do we have any questions so far? Are we still on Facebook? Are you still able to follow with me on Facebook? Just give me a quick nod on Facebook if you don't mind, to let me know that I'm still there, because I still don't have my video feed on Facebook. I do have it strong on YouTube, but I don't have it at all on Facebook. So just give me a quick thumbs up to let me know that you're still there on Facebook. Just to give me a little added oomph here. Sometimes difficult talking to a blank screen. But if you just give me a quick thumbs up, please, on Facebook to let me know that you're still there, I'd really appreciate that. So how does this idea work? How do we sanctify our portion of this world? Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Corey. How do we sanctify our portion in this world? So here we're introduced to the idea of the 613 mitzvahs. The 613 mitzvahs are divided into two categories. There's 248 positive mitzvahs, active mitzvahs, and there's 365 passive mitzvahs. 248 positive mitzvahs means stuff like lay the tefillin, marry and have children, shake the lulav, wear the tzitzis. The 365 passive mitzvahs are: don't eat bacon, don't mix milk and meat, don't marry an incestuous relationship, don't marry a married woman, do not violate the Shabbos, don't worship other gods. So there's 248 positive and 365 passive mitzvahs. Now, most of us think of these mitzvahs just as, in general, we think of them like a bit of a headache. Okay, God gave us 613 mitzvahs, not quite sure what exactly he wants from our lives, but he wants us to do them. Okay, I'm going to do as much as I can. I'll try. But what we learned today in Tanya is that each and every one of these mitzvahs is vital in allowing us to fulfill our purpose, to sanctify our portion in this world. What this means is as follows: that there are 248 positive mitzvahs corresponding to, this is from Maimonides, corresponding to the 248 limbs of the human body. And there are 365 passive mitzvahs corresponding to the 365 veins in the human body. So 365 passive mitzvahs relates to the veins of the human body. 248 positive mitzvahs relates to the limbs of the human body. What's the difference between limbs and veins? A limb is where you want to make sure you're directing your energy. The purpose of a limb, it is our goal. It's our destination. We're trying to make sure that we direct our we're directing our blood, let's say, to the limbs, so that the limbs can function properly. God forbid, if the limbs don't get properly infused with blood, then they turn into gangrene, God forbid. Terrible, they need to be amputated. So the purpose of the limbs is our destination, what we're trying to achieve, where we're trying to send the blood. The purpose of the veins is to ensure that the blood does not go to the wrong places. The purpose of the veins is to ensure that the blood doesn't leak, doesn't go to where it does not need to be. So the purpose of the 248 limbs is to tell us where we should be sending the blood. The purpose of the 365 veins is to let us know where the blood should not be going. Right? It goes around, it's got its roots. The veins have got their roots where not to leak and where they should dispense the blood. Just like the goal of the 248 limbs serve as our purpose, so too the 248 positive mitzvahs is about the portions of this world that we need to conquer, the portions of this world that we need to illuminate, the portions of this world that were formerly spiritually indifferent, that were spiritually apathetic, what we call klipas noga, and now we're making them holy. We're making them godly. We're infusing godliness into them. So that's the meaning of the 248 positive mitzvahs, active mitzvahs. The 365 passive mitzvahs is to ensure that we don't have a leakage, that we don't subvert godly energy into places where they should not be going. What does this mean? And so within the context of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains it like this. He says that, let's take a piece of leather, a cow. Let's take a cow, right? This cow is minding its own business. It's spiritually apathetic. It's not pro or con God. Has no problem with God, but it has no specific relationship with God. It's just minding its own business. It's a piece of cow. It's a leather. Now, when we take this cow's hide and we slaughter the cow and we take the cow's hide and we turn it into parchment or into kosher meat, then what you've done is that you've taken the neutral spiritual energy of this world, and you've made it holy because you've used it for a mitzvah. By writing tefillin or mezuzahs on the parchment of the cow, you've revealed the unfiltered will of God into the cow's hide. It's now become sanctified. You've incorporated the cow's hide into holiness. You've made it holy. You've channeled holiness into the cow's hide. Just like an organ, 248 organs, that the blood goes to the organ, so too you've channeled godly energy into that specific destination. Now, what would happen is, if we weren't careful to slaughter the cow, let's say the cow was served with milk, meat and milk together, then what happens? Then the spiritual neutral energy of the cow, now goes, it filters down into unholiness, into something which is explicitly prohibited by God. You now have a cheeseburger, right, which is meat and milk together, and that's unholy. It's what we call the three impure klippas, the three impure levels of klippa, which is unholiness that we cannot ever redeem, we cannot ever sublimate. What we need to do when we do a mitzvah is conquer and starve. We need to conquer something which formerly was neutral to spirituality, and we need to starve the impure klippas which are sustained by the neutral spiritual energy. When we use the physical objects of this world for a mitzvah, what we're doing is that we're conquering that physical object and incorporating everything godliness, but we're also starving and denying the energy to filter down into the three impure klippas. And that's the purpose of the positive and the negative mitzvahs, the active and the passive mitzvahs. An active mitzvah sublimates, sanctifies the physical parts of this world. And the passive mitzvah, by not engaging in a prohibited activity, denies life force to the physical objects of this world which are impure, like a cheeseburger. So it's conquer and starve. Just like the limbs of the human body we need to draw the blood into them. So too, we're drawing godly energy into the physical parts of this world. And just like the veins do not allow the blood to go into places where the blood should not be going, so too, when we do a mitzvah, when we refrain from engaging in the prohibited, we are denying godly energy into the prohibited parts of this world. When a Jew fulfills all 248 positive mitzvahs, he's sanctifying every component of his portion in this world. When a Jew observes all 365 passive mitzvahs as well, he is denying life source, energy, to all the prohibited parts of his portion in this world. So when one Jew fulfills all 613 commandments, not only are you sanctifying, but you're also starving the prohibited parts of this world, of your portion in this world. Now imagine if all of the Jewish people all observed all 613 commandments. What would happen is we all would be channeling holiness into every single part of the universe. And we'd all be denying holiness into the prohibited parts of the world, thus terminating the forces of negativity, which now have no life force, thus sanctifying the forces of neutrality, and that is the coming of Mashiach. That is the arrival of Mashiach, which is this world reaching a state of godly awareness, of godly consciousness. That, my friends, is our role in this universe, and why it's so critical, so vital for us, each and every one of us, to realize the role that we play in this universe as the chosen people. We're not just chosen to flaunt, we're chosen to sanctify. We sanctify this world, our individual, unique portions of this world, through observing the 248 positive mitzvahs, active mitzvahs, and through refraining from the 365 passive mitzvahs. I want to make sure that you understand this idea, friends. Tell me if you were able to follow me on the positive, on the active and passive mitzvahs over there, and how they sanctify our portion in this world. I'd love to hear your comments, how you feel about that, if you can relate to this idea, if it's something which you can grasp, or if you still need further explanation. I see Rabbi is asking a question here on Facebook. Chosen means the object of choice or of divine favor, according to Webster's dictionary. The object of choice or of divine favor. What does that say about those who were not chosen? If God made man in his own image, then why are not all men and women chosen? Why did God not choose all of mankind to bring spirituality in this world? Jews are hated in part because we describe ourselves as chosen, i.e. favored and better. Okay, so it seems like you don't have a problem with the Jews being chosen. The problem is that it makes us look bad with regards to the rest of humanity that's apparently not chosen. And it stokes the embers of anti-Semitism. First thing I would like to tell you, Rob, is that I believe anti-Semitism is merely sibling rivalry. We are all the children of God. The fact that God created us as human beings, every human being, Jew or Gentile, black or white, makes no difference, color, creed, or belief. The fact that you're human means that you're a child of God. And God testifies, my son, my firstborn, Israel. So the fact that God chooses, if a parent chooses one child over another, I think that's going to create sibling rivalry. And that's what happened in the entire book of Genesis, if you think about it. The brothers throughout the entire book of Genesis were constantly fighting because one was chosen over the other. Think about it. Why did Cain kill Abel? Because Abel's offering was accepted by God and Cain's was not. Ishmael and Isaac. Isaac was the chosen son. Isaac and Jacob, because Jacob was the chosen son. Think about the sons of Jacob, the 12 tribes of Israel, and how they all try to kill Joseph because Joseph was the most favored with his multicolored coat. Right? Think about all the siblings in Genesis, and now think about humanity as well. So God chose the Jewish people. Nobody denies that. We all know that God chose the Jewish people. This is published in the world's most famous book, the Bible. Everybody knows it, and our Christian friends remind us of it all the time in the most positive way, that we are chosen, right? And the Christians always tell me that God blesses those who bless you shall be blessed. And that's why the Christians love to bless the Jews, because they want to be blessed. So they bless us and they know that they'll be blessed, right? So I do agree with you, Rob, that anti-Semitism is created when we are chosen, but that's not because of anything that we did. It's just the way that God created us. He chose us, and I know it might not be politically correct, but we're chosen. And by the way, when you chose Maureen to marry her, there were other people that you didn't choose. And when she chose you, you were chosen, right? And there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about other people's jealousy. How do you deal with other people's jealousy? Am I going to say, no, I'm not going to marry anybody ever in my whole entire life because I don't want to make anybody feel bad? Do you know that there's a custom in Hasidic circles when a guy gets engaged, he will give out, it used to be cigarettes to his friends. And today, I think they give out candies or something. The reason that this custom happens is because when you get engaged to a girl, you know that there were probably other friends of yours that desired her. And now that you chose her and she chose you, they're very, very upset about it. They're actually not happy for you that you got engaged because they wanted to marry her. So that's why we try to appease them by giving out those cigarettes or those candies or something, right? So yeah, sibling rivalry is a real thing, and I'm glad that whatever on YouTube here agrees with me. Thank you. Nice name there, whatever. So I hope that this answers your question, Rob. Yes, sibling rivalry is the cause of anti-Semitism, right? And we are Jews not because they hate us. We are Jews because God loves us. That's it. Nothing you can do about it. Right? If you drive a car and somebody's jealous of your car, what are you going to do about it? Get rid of the car? I don't know. Your call. Your call. You tell me what you would do. Now, that doesn't mean, however, that other people don't have a role to play in the world. Jewish people have a unique role to play in the world, which is what we're talking about today, chapter 37. Non-Jewish people have another role to play in the universe. It doesn't mean that they have no role. Non-Jewish people have 7 divine commandments, and Jewish people have 613 commandments. This is not all or nothing here. It doesn't mean that just because the Jewish people were chosen, it means that nobody else was chosen for anything and everybody else is totally useless and unnecessary. That's not what this means. It means that the Jewish people have a role. Like, for example, I have a wife, I also have a secretary. I also have a doctor, I have a lawyer, and every one of them plays a role. Just because I have a wife, it doesn't mean that everybody else is useless. Everybody's got their unique role. So God chose the Jewish people for what we've described today. But God chose the Gentiles to do the 7 Noahide laws and to do their unique mitzvahs in this world. And there's a lot of things that the Gentiles can do to this world. And they actually serve a very critical role in this world. The 7 Noahide laws are vital to keeping the world going. And the righteous Gentiles will also have a portion in the world to come. That's how important their role is. I hope that answers your question, Rob. Andy, so Torah and mitzvahs are the Jewish destiny, what are the destiny of the non-Jews? Okay, fine. Torah and mitzvahs is definitely the destiny of the Jewish people. The 7 Noahide laws are the destinies of the non-Jews. I hope that answers your question. They were chosen to fulfill the 7 Noahide laws, which were not commanded to anybody else other than the Gentiles, right? So, for example, animals, the animal kingdom or the vegetable kingdom, where nobody else is commanded to do that. These are the children of God that were chosen to fulfill the 7 Noahide laws. What are they? They're not the 10 commandments, by the way. They're similar, but they're not the 10 commandments. 7 Noahide laws are the following. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not serve idols. That's a tough one. Do not serve idols. Do not steal. Set up courts of law. That's a big deal for the Gentiles to do that. What else? Don't be cruel to animals, and do not blaspheme God. These are the 7 Noahide laws. Harvey, I find it fascinating. The 613 mitzvahs correlate to the anatomy of the body way before man understood that anatomy. Absolutely. You know, Maimonides was a doctor, a physician of the Sultan Saladin in Egypt about 900 years ago, 850 years ago. And he writes this in his introduction to his Magnus Opus, the 14 books of the Yad HaChazaka, the 14 books, which is the Encyclopedia of the Torah, that many of us study on a daily basis. We're on the 40th cycle, but he writes this in the introduction. And Tanya chapter 37 today explains to us the meaning of this, that it's not multiple choice. It's not pick or choose when it comes to the mitzvahs. If you leave this world and you've only fulfilled 200 of the 248 active mitzvahs, then you've neglected 48 mitzvahs of your portion in this world. There's like a big black shadow on your portion in this world. They're like, Yankel Tadris. What are we going to do? You didn't finish your purpose in this world. There's a huge shadow. And that's why we have reincarnation. That's why you need to come back to finish unfinished business. And the same thing goes when you violated one of the 365 passive commandments. Let's say you've observed very nicely 360 of the passive commandments, but 5 of them you couldn't control yourself. What that means is that you've poisoned 5 elements of your portion in this world. And when you leave this world, you go up to heaven, they look at you like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? You've infused toxins in this world. How do we get them out now? And again, that's why you might need to come back to this world in order to do a tikkun, a repair of unfinished business in a previous lifetime. And that's why the Arizal states that a soul needs to return to this world for a maximum of 7 times. For what purpose? To fulfill the 613 commandments. Through the collective lifetimes, you have 7 opportunities maximum to finish your 613 commandments. They accumulate. And you know what? We're here in our very last leg. We've all been here before, and there's no coming back after this lifetime, because Mashiach is coming now, today. So, friends, it's about time we got to pull our socks up and say, listen, we got to do as many mitzvahs as we possibly can right now and refrain from as many mitzvahs as we possibly can. Just do it. Because, get out of the way or get run over. I mean, someone else is going to have to somehow do it for us. The purpose of the godly soul's descent into this world, my friends, is not to fix itself. It needs no fixing. It's only to engage with the natural soul, to sublimate it, and thus your portion in this world, your spiritual football, your weapons of mass construction, to illuminate your portion in this world through both the active and the passive mitzvahs. And this, my friends, is the reason why tzedakah is such an important mitzvah. We say about the mitzvah of tzedakah that it hastens the redemption. Why tzedakah more than any other mitzvah? Why charity? And Tanya chapter 37 says, because tzedakah is unique from all the other mitzvahs. All the other mitzvahs you observe with one part of your body. Tefillin is with your arm. Torah study is with your brain. Kosher food is with your mouth, teeth, and your digestive system. Every mitzvah that you do is either 1 or 2 or 3 parts of your body. But tzedakah, how did you earn this money? You earned it through blood, sweat, and tears. You worked real hard to make this money with all of your strength. And even if you didn't, if you got it for nothing, maybe through an inheritance or something, then you could have used it to pleasure your entire body. And when you use this money for tzedakah, for a mitzvah, for charity, for Hashem, what you're now doing is that you're elevating the entirety of your natural soul and your portion in this world. That is the uniqueness of the mitzvah of tzedakah. More than any other mitzvah, tzedakah hastens the redemption, because tzedakah, giving tzedakah, elevates, sublimates, sanctifies every single component of your physical being. Your mind, your heart, your body, your consciousness, everything from head to toe is what you use to make this money. I'd like to just conclude, friends, by reading to you the Rebbe's introduction to the book of Tanya. Harvey Barnett, are there any mitzvahs which relate only to the land of Israel? Absolutely. There are many, many mitzvahs which relate only to the land of Israel. For example, the mitzvahs of tithing of produce. To eating a tomato today, you walk into public to buy a tomato, no big deal. But in Israel, to eat a tomato is like a big deal. You got to make sure that it was tithed properly. The tithe for the priest, the tithe for what's his name, the tithe for the Levite, the tithe for the poor. You got to make sure that it's not the sabbatical year. The sabbatical year applies only in Israel. Every 7 years, you're not allowed to buy fruits or vegetables that were grown by Jewish farmers. This is we boycott the Jewish farmers in the 7th year because it's a biblical violation only in the land of Israel. Obviously, that applies to us too with exported products from Israel. You want to make sure that they have a kosher certification that says that this is not from sabbatical in Israel. But there are many mitzvahs relating to the land of Israel that are only applicable in the land of Israel. So to do those mitzvahs, you gotta either live in Israel or you gotta learn about those mitzvahs, because when you learn about the mitzvah, you're actually it's considered like you did it. I'm gonna read to you here just the Rebbe's quick an introduction about the Rebbe's introduction to Tanya, to the English Tanya in 1962, and how it comes straight out of chapter 37. Prefaced by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Hasidus in general, and Chabad Hasidus in particular, is an all-embracing world outlook. and way of life which sees the Jew's central purpose as the unifying link between Creator and creation. We are the fulcrum of creation. The Jew is a creature of heaven and earth, of a heavenly divine soul, which is truly a part of godliness, clothed in an earthly vessel, constituted of a physical body and an animal soul, whose purpose is to realize the transcendency and unity of his nature and the world in which he lives within the absolute unity of God. The realization of this purpose entails a two-way correlation. One in the direction from above downward to earth, and the other from the earth upward. In fulfillment of the first, drawing from top to bottom, man draws holiness from the divinely given Torah and commandments to permeate therewith every phase of his daily life and his environment, his share in this world. Chapter 37. Your share in this world. That's the purpose for which we were placed here. In fulfillment of the second, of sanctifying, of elevating the down to above, man draws upon all the resources at his disposal, both created and man-made, as a vehicle for his personal ascendancy, and with him, that of the surrounding world, because you have weapons of mass construction, your football. When you sanctify your natural soul, you're sanctifying your portion in this world. One of these basic resources is the vehicle of human language and communication, which is the rest of the introduction, why the Tanya was translated into English. But this, friends, is the conclusion of today's Tanya class, which talks about our role, our unique and extraordinary role in this universe of sanctifying our unique piece of real estate upon this earth. It's extraordinary. It's tremendous. You don't have time to get depressed when you realize that there's a piece of this earth that only you can uplift, can sanctify, can fulfill. The world, Mashiach is waiting for you to do your mitzvah, to sanctify your natural soul, to fulfill all 248 positive, active mitzvahs, and to refrain from all 365 passive mitzvahs, so that we can thus bring this world to its purpose. The world is waiting for you. No? Shake a leg. Thank you very much, everybody. Today's Tuesday morning. It's been a pleasure studying with you today. Tuesday is the day, I believe, that Corey is teaching a Hebrew and Psalms class today at 11:30 on Zoom. That's jewishgardens.com/Zoom. And I want to remind you that on Wednesday night, there's a ladies' Farbrengen with the Rebbitzin at 8 o'clock on Zoom. But on Thursday this week, instead of doing the Mashiach class on Thursday night, the purpose of Elijah, we're going to do the Mashiach class on Thursday morning at 8:30 right here on Facebook and on YouTube. So I hope that you'll join me on Thursday morning, 8:30, for Elijah and his purpose in this world, in the coming of Mashiach. It all ties together. We're learning about Mashiach now, but why do we need Elijah to come before Mashiach? That's what we're going to talk about on Thursday morning. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me here. Remember that the daily minyan is happening here at 7:30. We need your help to make sure that we get our daily minyan, that we rebuild from the pandemic, and we get back together on track. So please join us in the mornings here at 7:30 at Chabad Palm Beach Garden. Sundays at 9 a.m. and Shabbat morning is at 9:30 a.m. Thank you very much, everybody. Please like this video on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube with the big red button at youtube.com/Jewish Gardens, and please share this video so we can share the light and the love and the holiness of Tanya to your portion, to my portion in social media, to get that message out there to bring Mashiach. Thank you very much, everybody. Don't forget, you can always send me an email to rabbi@jewishgardens.com. That's rabbi@jewishgardens.com. Shalom and have a wonderful day.